Quarterbacks might be QB1 going 1.1 in the 2025 NFL Draft. How does Matt Williamson rank the quarterbacks in this class? The top five, a great group of backups, and maybe even a dark horse team that could strike in round one. All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We love and appreciate all the everydayers out there. Let us know you stopped by. Of course, subscribe. If you have not subscribed, helps us out tremendously. Helps other people find the show as well. So please subscribe on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you are currently listening on. And if you're new to the show, welcome. Hang out with us every day. Break down the entire league. Talking a lot of draft. It is draft season right now. And today we're talking about the quarterbacks. And I think it's going to be a fun conversation. Matt, we're going to start with your top five quarterbacks. And I know there's been a couple iterations here for you. Has anything significantly changed with the top of the quarterback class for you since we've gone through combine, pro days, and all that?
Not a lot. I got a little ahead of my skis with my first ranking, which was, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, something like that. And I put Shough 2 in those rankings ahead of Sanders.
Woo.
And I still really like him. But the more you watch him, he doesn't handle pressure great in the pocket. And he can crumble. He doesn't always stand tall. Maybe the injuries are in the back of his mind. I don't know. But I moved him back to 3 with Sanders 2, Dart 4. I have some questions about Dart. And Milroe at 5. So those 5 to me are clearly the best of the group, the most likely future starters. I don't think it's a wonderful group, but I have definitely warmed up more and more to Milroe. I also think, I know we'll talk about at some point, and I think your words exactly before we hit record were, boy, this is a great draft to get your long-term backup too. And I bet one of those backups doesn't turn into Purdy or Brady, but turns into a good player. You know,
yeah, it's hard to project someone that's, a late pick to become that, but you shouldn't be shocked if one of those backups starts starting games. Because again, if you're a number one quarterback in the NFL, you're one play away from being a number one quarterback in the NFL for that team. And so, deep class of backups. I want to talk about some of those sleepers and some of our favorite group. Some of our favorites there. If we're tearing out the top of the class, Cam Ward is just more and more like, it's funny because this draft class specifically, and I think some years you're like, this is a weird class, this is a great class, this is a bad class, whatever. I don't know if this is a good or a bad class. There's just a lot of holes to poke through everybody and a lot of incomplete evaluations. And, there's character whispers and there's injury stuff for some guys. And then, there's guys that are clean, they have great tape, but then they didn't test. And it's like, well, you don't have the complete picture evaluation. And so for a class like that, I think at the top, you see a quarterback in Cam Ward who has less and less questions. And I think it's just more and more like that tier grows with him by himself as QB1 in this class. Do you agree there?
I do. The only thing I don't agree is I think there's questions. There's not questions. We know what he is. I mean, I think he's clearly a tier 1 guy in this group. I still would have put him behind the first 3 drafted last year, but I think he's a top 5 to 10 pick any year he comes out. I think he's a high quality prospect, but there's volatility to his game. I mean, there's a lot of games. Well, there's several games this past year with the Hurricanes where he brings them back in the 3rd and 4th quarter and puts the Superman cape on. And you're like, wow, that's incredible. But one of the reasons they got in that predicament was because he put them in, it was his play in the first half. You know what I mean? Like there is some volatility here.
Love the frame, the sturdy frame, the athleticism, the arm. I love the elevated multiple. It wasn't like he's transferring around because he couldn't compete and tried to find a starting job in college. He went from what was Incarnate Word. Is that where he started?
Yep.
Incarnate Word elevates, goes, to the West Coast, elevates, comes back to Miami, East Coast, elevates. And so that's what I love about Cam Ward. And obviously there's a lot of tools to work with. Would he be the number one pick in a lot of drafts? I don't know. But in this draft, you need a quarterback. I can see why he would be. I would still probably take one of the other two blue chippers in Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter potentially, just because I like Cam Ward. Don't love him, but he's for sure QB1 here. And now you have Sanders QB2.
Yes. And real quick, I actually put out a tweet last night. I was watching some Genty film, and just in terms, I think Hunter and Genty are clearly the best football players in this draft. I'm not saying I'd take them 1 and 2. I think they're the best two players prospect, but I would be very comfortable taking Ward number 1 if I were the Titans. You know, I mean, considering their situation, position, all those things. And I really think Sanders at 2 is a distant 2. And I definitely want to talk about the second and third picks here at some point too. But I'm not big on Sanders, but I do think what he does well. I kind of see like a Geno Smith, this version of Geno, not early career. It's his ceiling, you know, as a thrower, a pocket passer, distributor, but he holds the ball a lot. And
I was just going to say, like, for really a guy whose prototype is pocket passer,
right?
The ball doesn't come out quick enough.
And they're on him.
Right.
And the other, like, if you watch a lot of Colorado tape, it's clear their O-line is horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. But it's still a lot on him. And still a lot of the way their offense is designed are bubble screens to Hunter. You know, like his completion percentage is high, but there's a lot of quick, easy throws to the best player on the planet that inflate some numbers and even makes you wonder why there's still so many sacks when the ball's coming out like crazy, because he is a really good timing anticipatory guy. That's his strengths.
Tyler Shough is third now, and you have him over Jaxson Dart. And I know you like Shough, and there's a lot of there's a lot to like about Shough, and he's big and he can chuck the ball. From the lowlights, I'm glad you brought up some of his negatives, because there's some really bad lowlights on tape with pressure, and that can be a death knell for quarterbacks in the NFL. And then Jaxson Dart, you have fourth, so that means you're lower than consensus on Jaxson Dart. What do you see with him?
Yeah, I see. My thoughts on Dart are good traits across the board. He's a plus athlete. He's got a good arm. He's got a good body, but no Superman traits. I mean, I don't know what his great thing is, his calling card. You know, Sanders' is accuracy. I mean, whether you like him or not. And the system he comes from really worries me. Now, I don't have the luxury of sitting down with him and whiteboarding and talking to my quarterback coach, but I forget what podcast I was listening to said it really well, that when you watch Jaxson Dart and you really understand football, you come away going, Lane Kiffin is really good at his job. Like, he's doing all the work for him. If you throw it here or here, and I'm going to design great offense. And that's just not how the league works.
I don't think the last quarterback out of there helps Jaxson Dart either.
No,
right?
It's a similar situation, right?
Yeah. Our next quarterback, QB5, and then we'll talk about some of the other, I think, large group of backup type quarterbacks, sleeper quarterbacks. It's a really good group. It's a great year to draft a backup quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft. It's a deep class of quarterbacks. So let's get to a group of them next. But first, I want to thank our newest sponsor, Nissan, and our Armada Player of the Week, which is brought to you by Nissan, the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we're going to take a look at draft prospects. That one guy that stands apart, we're talking about quarterbacks today, so we have a stupid guy to showcase, and he's got arm strength, he's got speed, he's got some power, and to push his team forward, right, as we look ahead to next season and beyond. And so this week's Armada clear-cut Player of the Week is Jalen Milroe, Matt's QB5 in this draft class. And heavy duty, rugged are words to describe the Armada. I think definitely rugged for Jalen Milroe. Conquers the road with capability and confidence, and especially this one, when you dream big, you go big. And I think you could dream big, even if he sits on the bench for a little while with Jalen Milroe. I want to get the scouting report from Matt here in a second on that. And it's clear that our Player of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road, ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of the outstanding vehicles like the Nissan Armada, Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, So go find your next big adventure and shop NissanUSA.com. So tell me about Jalen Milroe. And I got to imagine if Matt Williamson's over here, he covers the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you're doing
yeah.
You're doing a 7-round mock draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. No second-round pick anymore. Traded that for DK Metcalf. Have to imagine you bypass quarterback at pick 21 in round 1. I might see Jalen Milroe's name pop up in round 3. Am I close?
Yeah, very. I don't. Everyone on the planet now is mocking Dart 21 to the Steelers. I can almost assure you that's not going to happen. Okay. I don't think they'll take a first-round quarterback. I don't know that Milroe will get the 3rd round, but I think they would love to leave this draft with D lineman in round 1, Milroe later. And I'm just guessing on that. I really don't know if they love him or not, but I've done a lot of more homework on him because I think that might be their target if they do look for a potential future starter. And I really start to understand why. I mean, first off, to say he's a good runner is a massive understatement. He is a rocket ship. I mean, he might be as good as Lamar as a runner now. I think he's faster. He's more physical. I don't know that he sees the field like Lamar and the stop-start stuff, but I mean, he gets the edge, and it's like the road runner.
He ran a 4.3 at his pro day.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy for a quarterback. 6'2", 217. You running 4.3, that's like a first-round running back profile.
Yeah, and he's physical and breaks tackles and is a powerful runner. So that goes without saying. He's a great athlete. He's an A-plus runner. He's got a big arm, and he's very accurate deep. He's very good from the pocket. I mean, he has a very good understanding of pocket presence and feeling pressure and where to go with the football. Now, all quarterbacks need this, but everyone raves about him as an athlete, a student athlete, as a leader, as a tough guy, intelligence, maturity, all those things. But his negatives are just as brutal. I mean, he is a terrible short to intermediate passer.
It's terrible. Tough because the most important thing in the NFL is the thing he's not good at, but he's got so much physical ability. And it's like, I picture sometimes with draft prospects, I don't know if you have like a picture in your mind of how you view things. And I think Jalen Milroe is the perfect donut, right? It's delicious. It's sugary and sweet, but there's a huge hole right in the middle, right? And he's got this like great arm. He's got this athleticism. He's got leadership. He's got all the things except for that middle. So can you fill it up? Can you like plug a donut hole? Can you put some cream in there? Like what's that going to look like? And, say Aaron Rodgers, QB1, Jalen Milroe, QB2. You have to put him on a team where he's got an opportunity to sit and an offense that maybe fits.
Definitely needs a year.
Yeah, that fits that. So like I wouldn't put him on a McVay, Shanahan, we throw the ball intermediate, middle of the field all day. I would put him in a play action style where we can use your athleticism. We can throw some short stuff, catch and run, and then hit you deep and then use the quarterback athleticism type of an offense, right? So interesting. I'm kind of coming along the hand size thing, and the Steelers actually went through hand size with Kenny Pickett. So could that be like a deal breaker? They're like, we can't do that again.
So a couple notes on him. You mentioned the donut comparison. My favorite comp for Milroe is Happy Gilmore. He's great off the tee, gets near the green and just can't putt. Like the short stuff doesn't work at all, but there's a lot of flash there. He's not like every other golfer on the course. I think a big problem, I know his hand size is better now than it was a month ago, but that could be factoring in his control of the football. But I think a lot like Tim Tebow or Will Levis, he's too muscle bound. He looks like a weightlifter, like a running back. Like I think he needs to spend a year or two doing flexibility stuff. And, you're not on Muscle Beach here. I don't care about the curls. I think he needs to train differently because there's a lot of stiffness to his throwing that reminds me of Tebow. And Josh Allen had some of that, though. I mean, like Josh Allen was a terrible accuracy guy year 1 and 2. And all these dudes do the biometrics and I think he's working with Carson Palmer's brother and working on all those things. we've seen guys get more accurate in the NFL level, and that's why I'm keeping a candle lit for Milroe to maybe even be the best player in this draft at this position in 3 years.
Wow. Okay. And that's another reason why he could potentially go higher. Like, would you be shocked?
That's the thing.
If,
I don't think he's there in the 3rd round for the Steelers.
Yeah.
I think he's a 2nd rounder. Yeah.
What if he's the second? Like, could Shedeur start to slip and Dart get in front of him or Milroe get in front of him? I don't think we should be shocked if Milroe's one of the top 3 guys, but some teams might not like him at all. And some teams might, be out on the small hands thing and be like, well, he just doesn't meet thresholds, so we're not going to draft him. So I don't know where he's a real wild card. He could go anywhere.
I can understand why a team falls in love with him and takes him really high. Like what Levis was the 2nd pick on day 2. Everyone goes back to their caves after Thursday night and says, man, I want him. Let's try to trade up to the top of the 2nd round. I can see it. And
it could be a huge part of draft strategy. And I want to talk about that in the next segment with the
that's interesting to me too.
And the Giants. And I've got a dark horse team for a quarterback potentially early as well. But who's your favorite backup? Like, let's talk sleepers here. You don't have to rank them out necessarily in the next group. I have my favorite sort of sleeper backup type quarterback in this class, but there's a lot of good ones.
There's a lot of good ones. So I just pulled up Lance's list so I don't miss any. Ewers doesn't do a lot for me. I'm really interested in McCord. He's a little bit too aggressive. And my gosh, if you bring his name up around here, his worst game was against Pitt, and he threw like 3 pick sixes. But since then, he was really good. But I like him as a pocket passer with aggression. He might be Ryan Fitzpatrick and makes people, he lives with them for a year or 2.
That's a good comp.
That's a good comp. Yeah, that could be one of those. Maybe
6'3",
who he is.
218. He's got a great arm. And so like it's kind of got it's a little bit like Shough, where you see the high level throws, you're like, awesome, and you see the low, like, ooh, don't like that. So
don't do that. Right.
You tame the wild stallion there in Kyle McCord. No, he's a really good one. He's one of my favorites for sure. Dylan Gabriel, I think he's going to end up in the CFL. He's played college football for like 7 years, lefty. NFL teams, I think people are mocking him and projecting him a little bit too high. I don't know if NFL teams can be their bag of tea. Quinn Ewers,
he could be 2 as backup though.
There you go. Or Scott Tua, like maybe another team.
Right. Get it out quick and
Quinn Ewers, it's like you've had too many chances to live up to your high school. Like we're still treating him like he's the high school recruit that he was. Like I'm all the way out on Quinn Ewers. I don't get it. He's just not good.
I don't think he's that talented either. I didn't know how he's the top recruit. I mean, he doesn't throw the ball that well. He's not that big. I mean, I don't know why he didn't go back to school and at least put one more year of tape out there.
My comp for him is Blaine Gabbert. And people like, I never thought he was good to begin with. People kept giving him opportunities. I don't know what he's got that everyone loves, but I just don't see it.
A couple others to mention here. Let's talk about Will Howard a little bit. I keep going back and forth on him.
Okay.
I think he's a great processor. I love him from the neck up. I think he's accurate, but I think he's really limited in terms of what he has as a passer and tools. And boy, did he have a perfect system around him. You know what I mean? And he might be Jason Garrett behind Aikman or, and then end up being a coach,
Prototype backup quarterback. He's going to probably have a nice little career. He'd probably be, if you're ranking this out, I would probably put him at QB 6, right behind the 5 that you have there. He's pretty safe. He'll start some games maybe. He'll be a long time backup, and we'll see if traits wise, if it's enough, but it's a pretty good profile, and it's a profile where guys stick around and play for a long time. So I do like Will Howard quite a bit.
I just mentioned Jason Garrett. I hadn't thought about Howard in that light till that just kind of fell out of my mouth, but Ken Dorsey with the U.
There you go.
That not a very good arm, ends up being a really good offensive coordinator. Frank Reich and all these coaches that were behind big time quarterbacks.
I remember I was very young in my draft following days back then, but I was kind of blown away. I was like, Ken Dorsey, like national champion, he's going to go in like the 7th round or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't understand it either. Right.
And then I realized, he's got a complete noodle. Okay,
he can't throw. Last name I probably have here. I think Riley Leonard's interesting. I originally thought he might be the tight end Taysom Hill, but I think he's more quarterback than that.
Yeah.
I think he'll stick as a 2. But maybe my favorite, but unfortunately we might not see him all year, is Kurtis Rourke from Indiana. He was really good at Ohio University, played the entire year with a torn ACL or MCL, a bad knee injury that he shouldn't have played at all. So he's a lot more mobile than he looked, and he took Indiana to new heights. If anyone is Purdy or whatever, I'm going to put a chip on Rourke. But he probably won't even be there in the preseason. Like he's going to be a rookie next year probably.
And you took my guy. Kurtis Rourke is my guy.
Really? Okay.
With some of the best anticipation in this class.
He's good.
I think he's more athletic than he looked like because he was playing on a torn ACL. And
right.
The toughness, so coaches are going to like that. Again, you draft him as a backup and see what else he gives you. But he might be in the 7th round because, he might not play for you. And he's going to be in the 7th round of every one of my mock drafts to the 49ers because I think he's absolutely a fit for that style of offense.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, he's perfect fit there. So I
just love to work with him all year while he's a backup. I mean, if he's just a meeting room only guy for a while, that makes it tough.
Yeah, football in the family. His brother played in the league a little bit, had a cup of coffee, I believe. And I believe he's Canadian. There's another Canadian quarterback as well. And I'm blanking on his name right now. It's a name that's hard to pronounce. But
he was at the Senior Bowl. Taylor Elsgerma.
There you go. Yeah.
He was at the Senior Bowl. Yeah.
I'd
like to get him in camp. I don't know if I'd use a pick on him, but
yeah, maybe undrafted priority guy. I think Brady Cook out of Missouri. I watched the Missouri tape for Luther Burden, and I was like, this quarterback play is awful. But I think there were some injuries and some other problems there. But it was like, oof. I'm surprised people are talking about drafting this guy. And then Seth Hennigan from Memphis as well is another name I think that is
nice. They're all possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. So really good, really deep class. Good year to get your backup quarterback, and who knows, maybe a year to get your starting quarterback, depending. Who will be those teams that get their starting quarterback in this class? Maybe a Darkhorse team.
One of those day 3 guys will end up being a starter. I don't know who, but one of them will be.
Yeah, the lottery ticket. Okay, anything changed at the top? Last week, we kind of went into this with the Browns and the Giants and the top of the draft, beyond what we think is Cam Ward locked in at pick 1 to the Titans. It felt like Shedeur to 2 was very seriously going to happen. And then now since then, I've kind of fallen off on that. And you look at the FanDuel odds and Shedeur is like plus 900, like a distant third to be selected. Do they know something? Every mock draft from insiders has Abdul Carter going number 2 and not Shedeur Sanders now. It's kind of flipped. So if you're reading the tea leaves, maybe a Shedeur Sanders fall. Maybe the Giants get him at 3. Maybe the idea here is that the Giants and the Browns like another door enough to where they're like, look, we're not going to pass on this blue chip player because we like, say, Jaxson Dart also. And so we're cool with maneuvering at the top of the 2nd round to maybe get a quarterback. And we're not going to pass on the blue chipper because we don't love Sanders, but we like him. And if he's there, we'll draft him in the 2nd round or maybe move up to get him. But we do like Jaxson Dart or we do like Jalen Milroe enough that we're going to do something else at quarterback, especially the Giants because they've obviously got a bunch of veterans in there now.
Yeah. So I have a new theory on this, and I went through it with Wig on Locked On NFL, and I'm curious what you think. And again, no one's told me these things, but I kind of know how these things work. I bet when the season ended and the Browns with all their cap problems and the Giants with where they are end up with the 2nd and 3rd pick, ownership comes to the decision makers and says, this is our year for a quarterback. Get your quarterback now. It fits our timeline. We need it. The fan base needs it. Get your quarterback now. Yes, sir. We'll do it. Okay. But you go through this process and you realize, well, I can't get the 1 to get Ward. You didn't know that when the Super Bowl ended or whatever, but you know it now. Ward's going to the Titans and I'm not going to be able to pry him away. Okay. And then you go to ownership and you say, well, our next favorite guy is Shedeur Sanders. And here's our scouting report on him. And here's our grades. And we like him. Sir, we like him. If you want to go down this path, I'll draft him for you. Sure. But he's a much worse prospect than Carter and Hunter. And they're going to be, one of those two is going to be sitting there for us. I'm saying the Giants and Browns have this conversation. So I think ownership finally goes, well, you can't get the guy you want. We're not taking the 30th best ranked guy in the draft at 2 or 3. Take the star, Carter to the Browns, Hunter to the Giants. And then they're the teams that try to trade up for Dart or Sanders or get back in round 1. The Browns have a ton of draft capital. Maybe the Giants could send next year's first and a super early 2 to get to 20 to get Dart. Like, I think the goal of those teams is have your cake and eat it too. End up with Hunter and Sanders, reunite them, or Carter and Dart, or Carter and Sanders, and maybe they can pull it off.
I'm fighting off a sneeze over here. If it looks like
I was wondering what you're doing. Yeah,
like you putting tears in my eyes with that
the theory,
speech about the quarterbacks and then
ownership
in this draft class and ownership and how these teams work. Yeah, I'm with you. It just really feels like that's where we are right now with those quarterbacks, and which means more action. And to be honest with you, as fans of the NFL draft, we should be rooting for Shedeur to not be in the top 3. That'll make
it'll be great.
More fun, right?
Maybe the Saints just grab them or whatever. Who knows? But
so
it'll be
Saints probably have to be Darkhorse team number 1 to get a quarterback then. Yeah,
I would think. Yeah. Although I can't harp on this enough. The last time that organization used a first-round pick on a quarterback was Archie Manning. Maybe they just don't believe in it. I mean, it's a long time to go. Since I mean, my whole life.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
Archie Manning's last time the Saints used a first-round pick.
Or they're due, right? And so then there's the dark horse teams that take a non-Shedeur quarterback, Jaxson Dart, or make some kind of a move up. I think the Los Angeles Rams have to be considered that team because, I mean,
perfect landing spot.
And Sean McVay, first of all, have the guts to make moves, which makes them a very interesting team. They have a long-term need at quarterback, even though they have a very good one, and they have now re-upped with
perfect timing.
But at the same time, they're clearly willing to do something else at quarterback, right? This offseason. And does that mean they liked something in evaluation? And there was a report that the reason the Vikings moved up in the draft and to solidify their selection of JJ McCarthy was because the Rams were actively trying to trade up in front of them to get JJ McCarthy in last year's draft. And so quarterback is on their mind. The future of quarterback is on their mind. And they're a team that I think is aggressive and very interesting. And so probably my dark horse team at quarterback, I don't know if that means they just sit there and draft Jaxson Dart if they go up, if Shedeur Sanders falls, if it's something else completely different. But, Rams are kind of always the wild card.
Yeah, they see things differently, and they're aggressive, and they're not afraid to go do whatever they want to do. So often, you mentioned the Steelers don't have a second-round pick. So all the time at 21, we're like, boy, it'd be great to trade back 5 spots, blah, blah, blah. And I bet a bunch of teams are looking at this draft the same way. Like, we wouldn't mind picking up an extra pick, moving down. Who are we really in love with our current spot? But I'm hoping that, to your point, Sanders doesn't go in the top 3. And all of a sudden, Sanders, Dart, the Giants, Rams, Browns, whoever else, maybe the Raiders, I don't know, which Geno Smith has got an extension, side note, or whoever starts to try to move up. Because my problem is I don't know what teams are moving up in this draft, but maybe all of a sudden Dart and Sanders and those guys are the ones that happens.
It is really, really easy to find a team that would move down. And I can't
that's the thing.
Many scenarios other than a Shedeur Sanders falling or a team falling in love with Dart at the end of round 1 as teams that would want to move up. Because, you look at the positions that people might want to move up for. Defensive lineman, man, it's a really deep defensive lineman class.
Right. So do I have to move up for that?
You could wait, end or tackle. Wide receivers, Ted McMillan, would he be worth that? Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, I think they're good prospects, but I think if you probably could just wait unless you're moving up to get the last one. So potentially a lot of movement at the end of the first round, middle, early first round. It's really hard to project a player going up. Maybe going to get the last clean offensive tackle would be the
tackle was the one thing I was thinking.
Yeah,
if they start to get a run, if you're the Chiefs and you need a tackle and you're like, oh no, I better get to 20.
Or maybe if you're even the, let's say, I don't know, Cowboys or Dolphins, and there's 3 tackles and 2 of them are already gone. And
I need to get one of the 3.
I need to get up in front of 11 and 12. So maybe you move up a few spots, something like that.
Maybe. I know there's a buttload of edge rushers, but what if there's a crazy edge rusher run and you just say, wow, they're going off the board at an insane level. I need to get from 25 to 18 to make sure I get Michael Williams or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But it's tough to find trade up targets.
Yeah.
But maybe it's Dart and Sanders.
Let us know if you think your team is a candidate to trade up in the NFL draft. We would like to hear it because everyone wants to go down, especially when you see those mock draft sims, right? And every fan does the mock draft simulator. They always go down. They almost never go up, Matt.
Yeah,
so let us know if your team's going up in the NFL draft at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL, or in the YouTube comments. Thanks for making us your first listen. For your second listen, listen to one of the other 200 podcasts here on the network. You can listen to Matt again with Wig on Friday's edition of Locked On NFL. Of course, our guys Dame and Keith doing Locked On NFL Draft Daily. You can find me and your favorite team doing team-specific podcasts here, and no matter the sport as well, not just football. On the Locked On Podcast Network, Matt and I back Monday. Mock Draft Monday right here. Peacock and Williamson.